Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our virtual science cafe, Personal BioBlitz, Discovering Everyday Biodiversity with Dr. Lena Struwe. My name is Brian McGonigal. I am the Manager of Alumni and Community Engagement for SEBS and for the New Jersey Agricultural Experiment Station. I just want to go over a few things before we move into the program. The talk is being recorded and it will be posted online on the SEBS YouTube page. If you have questions at any time during the presentation, please enter those questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. After the presentation is over, we will answer the questions in turn, time permitting. After the event, I will send an email to all registrants with a link to the video and some other links regarding Dr. Struwe's presentation and the Personal BioBlitz. We're planning to do an alumni competition with the BioBlitz this year, and more information will be coming about that, but just to be aware. So now I would like to introduce Dr. Mary Nucci. She's the Assistant Research Professor in the Department of Human Ecology at Rutgers. She's also the Assistant Dean for Campus Engagement at SEBS, and she is the Director of the Science Cafe series. Mary, it's all you.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you everyone for joining us today for this, what I consider a very exciting talk from an amazing colleague and researcher. So I'd like to introduce to you today Dr. Lena Struwe, who is Director of the Chrysler Herbarium, the Faculty Director of Rutgers Gardens, and Professor at the School of Environmental Biological Sciences at Rutgers University, where she teaches evolution, botany, plant biodiversity, and nature journaling. She has over 35 years of broad research, community engagement, and teaching experience in the fields of plant diversity, botanical nomenclature, evolution, and ethnobotany. She has led many research projects on several continents, especially about the evolution and biodiversity of gentians and relatives, botanical accuracy, and plant evolution and weedy and urban plants. In her spare time, I should say, in her research work, she has discovered many dozens of new plant species, including one in amber from the Caribbean, and another that plants its seeds itself in soil. Dr. Struwe runs the blogs Botanical Accuracy and Botany Depot in her spare time, I should say now, and many projects on iNaturalist, including the Biodiversity of New Jersey project and Fauna and Flora of Rutgers University. Each spring, she is the main administrator for the annual Personal BioBlitz project, and I will turn it over to her to tell you more about that. So Lena, thank you so much for teaching me.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. One tiny correction, and that is that I'm no longer the faculty director for Rutgers Gardens. I handed that over to the new director, Lauren Erickson. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and we are going to talk about iNaturalist and the Personal BioBlitz. Give me a moment, get this started. Okay, come on. Okay, so the Personal BioBlitz. What do you see first on this picture? I know I can't hear you, but what does your eyes go to? And just take a moment, and then I bet it's going to be that tiny little bird in the center. Then all the green and all the other little things around it are not what your eyes are going straight to. And this is a phenomena that people have studied. You know, what is it that attracts our interest in the world around us? So this is often called the charismatic fauna. So the fauna, certain fauna, not all kinds of animals, are really, capturing our attention. These are usually things that are very fluffy, have rounded ears, have a distinct nose, have big round eyes, or that are very scary and have big teeth. So the charismatic fauna includes things like puppies, dogs, bears, sharks, crocodiles, and other things that are among the most prominent animals, koalas, as the big pandas and so on, giant pandas and so on. So we as humans are drawn to this cuteness or this danger, fear thing that we are then responding to. And of course, in nature, over the history of human evolution, we had to pay attention to what might be dangerous to us. So think about natural history museums. When you go to them, what is usually on display? It is those kinds of animals. It's the charismatic fauna. The things with the big eyes, the fluffiness. Could be birds too, like this owl. Or they could be things that are prominent and big. So this museum biodiversity that you see, it's always, not always, but very animal centric. All the other kinds of life forms out there, like insects, like fungi, like plants, are usually not prominently displayed. Even if they're part of a diorama like this, they are not part usually of the descripting text that goes with these things. I call it Disneyfied too, because when you think about the Disney movies that are including animals and biodiversity, they're nearly always fluffy animals with big eyes and sometimes with big things. Think about Lion King, for example. Okay, so there is a global biodiversity crisis going on. And this crisis is the extinction of a lot of different animals and plants and fungi around the world. And there's also a crisis when it comes to human knowledge of these species. And this has sometimes been called species blindness or plant blindness. That's a word we've been using for many years. The plant blindness is that plants especially have been overlooked by humans. This, what you're looking at on this picture, is the cross-section of a fruit of a plant that grows in New Jersey. So from this picture, you probably couldn't tell if it was an animal or a plant itself. So this lack of plant knowledge is especially abundant in urban areas, but urban areas have plenty of plants in them. So why am I talking about this species knowledge? Well, because what you know about, you usually care about. And it's a curiosity phenomena. If we drive curiosity in ourselves, we're learning more about things around us, and that is in itself something that brings well-being and better feelings about the world around you. So you usually see what you know. What you don't know about, you don't even see, you don't observe it, you don't pay attention to it. And what you know, you usually put names on. This can be friends, it can be something you're interested in, everything from music to cars to food. You know, you see it, you pay attention to it, and what you have put a name on usually becomes important in some way. Could be negatively or positively important. So this picture here shows birding for botanists, right? So the botanists are interested in the plants, so they know exactly that this is witch hazel here flowering, and the chickadee is just a bird, any kind of bird. You could turn this around and say, you know, birders would know the chickadee, if what kind of chickadee it is, but they would just say, oh, that's just a shrub that is flowering. So this idea that we have a selective filter on the world around us is something that we all have. So how can you widen that and become more aware of more things around you? And what in your life do you think decided what it is that you're interested in? So this species blindness, is it a psychological trait that there's something is fearful or have big eyes, or is it more like in habit or something that you have been taught, or what people around you have been talked to you about when you were little and when you were growing up and in schools? So this is something that people now are not calling this blindness anymore, because blindness implies that this is a physical trait, but actually species blindness is something that is not in any way a physical trait. It's a practice. You have practiced this or not. You have learned it from practicing or being exposed to these things. So the more species you see, the more things you experience, the more you learn about them, they become, you then continue learning more and more about it. And lots of species are out there that are interesting, but nobody has ever shown them to you. And we need more resources than for showing these things and discovering these things. So this is now called plant awareness disparity or species awareness disparity. It's actually a disparity of awareness that you can work on, and you can learn, and you can become more aware and have more words for the things that you see around you. So to actually find these things and to actually see these things takes time. Not a lot of time out of your life, but takes time in the sense of energy and observation and attention. Georgia O'Keeffe said that, and Georgia O'Keeffe, as you know, was an artist that paid a lot of attention to small things and details. This is her red canna painting from 1924 of the inside of a red canna flower. And there is hope. So, and the hope is also that if you slow down a bit, if you, as Cheryl Strayed, who wrote Wild, the one that became a movie later, travel by foot. There's so much you can't identify at top speed. She was not talking about species identification. She was talking about self-awareness. She was talking about thinking about your life, how things happened, why things happened, what's the next step forward, and becoming more of a internalized and processing within yourself. But this is also true for finding things in everyday life that you have never seen before that are right under your feet or right in front of your eyes. So slowing down, observe, take notes, look at the weeds under your car, the birds at the bird feeder, looking at the interesting things that might show on unexpectedly inside your house when you least expect it. So the other things that are happening right now is not just this new awareness of how this kind of awareness is built up, and how we are looking at things. It's also that we have digital tools right now. This little meme was going around, said there's a new game that is just like Pokemon Go. Some of you probably remember Pokemon Go, but it's bigger, and that's taxonomy. So the person that invented Pokemon Go was actually a taxonomist. He was an entomologist, or is an entomologist. And you can tell that from the different features in Pokemon Go that some of the characters look like little insects that are developing. So taxonomy in itself is the classification, the naming of all the species in the world. And it is something you also can collect. It's something you also can gather information about, and it's very well organized by biologists. And now we have these tools that are in our hands, that we're carrying around with us, that we didn't have 20 years ago, these cell phones that are connected to a vast databases and websites and tools and people around the world. This is my daughter, taking a photo of this jellyfish with a little crab on that we found in Costa Rica on a beach. We photographed this, put it up online, posted it to Facebook and iNaturalist the same day, and quickly got feedback from other people around the world, people we didn't know what this, jellyfish was. The crab, can't remember if we got any feedback on that because it was very small and maybe obscure, but the jellyfish we did. So with our tools now, we can all be explorers. We can all learn what is growing and living all around us. We don't have to take a university course, a college course, or a specialty course, or go someplace. We have the tools right in our hands all the time. And that is what the Personal BioBlitz is utilizing. It is looking at everything that is around you all the time. And these things that are around you all the time is the digital world that is the tool, the not just the phone, but also what that connects you to this world of digital, people and websites and tools and this, identification helps. Your everyday life, that's what you live in, and nature is all in this, So even the cracks in the parking lot have many weeds in them that are something that we usually just weeds, unimportant, but there is life in there, and there are things living in the cracks that are then living on the weeds themselves. So it's very much an integrated world that we live in, with the digital world as being part of it. So what we have been doing for 10 years, and it's about to start, the 10th year is about to start, is the Personal BioBlitz. And this is a way for all of us to go out and see how many species can we find during 76 days. It's 76 days because it's March 1st to May 15th. So it fits the later part of the semester, the spring semester at Rutgers University. This is a project that is run on iNaturalist, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. It has Facebook groups, it has an email list. It's a competition if people want it to be a competition. Otherwise, it's a big community effort together to help each other to learn about whatever you see around yourself. And it has to be wild species, or if they're not wild, then they have to be marked up as captive or cultivated. And it's really a big, giant group effort. And we are doing this at Rutgers, and this project is run at Rutgers, but we have people from all over the world that are participating in this. The only criteria is that you have to know somebody that works at Rutgers, that you're invited by somebody at Rutgers, or that you have been part of the BioBlitz in the past and know you have a friend that has done the BioBlitz in the past. This is a flyer that is available as a PDF and on our website, so you're going to find more information about that soon. This was invented 10 years ago as part of the Journal Club in Evolution, a discussion seminar. And it was invented as this was the first time in the whole world that the Personal BioBlitz was done. We are the cradle of the Personal BioBlitz at Rutgers. And other people have then taken on this and do this in other places of the world too. And this was started as a challenge. So the challenge was that who can see the most species during this time period? And it was a challenge mostly between me and the graduate students, and we did it on Excel in the original first year, and then we moved over to iNaturalist when iNaturalist was starting to be built up. And it has been increasing every year since then, seeing more and more in species. And it is also something that has led to publications. There's an article about BioBlitz. We looked at how important this is for people to engage with the world around them and have fun and learning what they can see, and how they then build on that as a lifelong learning experience. So at regular BioBlitz, not the Personal BioBlitz, but a regular BioBlitz is usually a 24 event in one place where people come to that place and they try to find as many species as possible in that little geographic area. And this has been going on for many, many, many years, these BioBlitzes, and very common. So there are BioBlitzes like that in many places, including one on the Newark campus of Rutgers, the NJIT and Newark campus. But there's many other ones. So the Personal BioBlitz is a little different. So Personal BioBlitz is just, wherever you are in the world, doesn't matter when, and it's over a long period of time. So it's about really developing an idea that everyday biodiversity is important. So we are in this because we're trying to increase the awareness of the species that live around you, to care more, to name more things, to be able to feel connected, a sense of place, a sense of living place around you. So all species counts, also the ones that you might not like, also things like wasps and bees, maybe, the first snowdrops count, everything, can be put in here. The first starlings, doesn't matter if it's native or non-native, all species groups, every little microscopic thing you can find counts as well. And you share it, everybody sees what comes in on this iNaturalist project. As part of this, we have data that people found species they had no idea existed before. And lots of them continued to learn species afterwards. They just kept going with this. Both beginners and experts are very welcome in this project. So why join the Personal BioBlitz? Because you can really engage with everybody around you. And these are people that are not around you physically in your town, but they are online and they are experts, or they are people that know your area, and they will help you identify things. And it's different. So it includes every species you encounter, anywhere, anytime. So it's very relevant. You can decide that I'm only going to do insects. I'm only going to do spring flowers. I'm going to do only things in my backyard. It's up to you. It's completely up to you. You set the pace and the amount and the focus of your own participation in this. And when you look at in the first 4 years who participated, it turns out that the alumni were the biggest group, that the the average was big. Faculty and staff were a lot of people, but the average of how many species they reported was lower. Lots of friends, some grad students, relatives were not so active in this, but undergrads also. So you can see the dots, and then the color is the confidence level. Okay, so getting started, how do you use iNaturalist? So our project is on iNaturalist, and this is a tool you can use for not just this BioBlitz, but for everything else. So you have a website, there's a getting started on the website. It's this tool that is both on the website and as an app on your phone. So iNaturalist is a public website. Every observation you upload is visible to anybody in the world that is on iNaturalist. Nothing is hidden. So you can hide coordinates if it's like a rare plant, or if it's you don't want people to know where you live, you can hide the coordinates, but then it will just be fuzzed out, so they will know that it's in New Jersey, for example. This means that if you upload a photo of something that you saw in a magazine, somebody will report to you and say this is not serious, because most of the observations that are uploaded are being used by scientists to expand our information and data about biodiversity on the world. This is a very easy how to do it. I'm not going to go through this because this is on the website. It's really easy to get going with iNaturalist. It's made for beginners, but there's a lot of experts and naturalists on there all the time. Here's an example of an uploaded observation. This is a roundleaf greenbrier that I saw in fruit in Cape May in October. So you can see the map. This is how it looks like on the web. So you see in the map with a little green dot where it was found. And then you see my pictures, and actually you can have more than one picture of the same thing there. And just to give you an idea, and you can have a pseudonymous name on here. You don't have to have your real name on iNaturalist. And then all your observations will be together on iNaturalist, so you can go back and you can find things. This is some examples of my recent observations. You have an idea of how many observations you have seen and uploaded, how many species you have seen. It keeps track of this. 1,540 identifiers. Those are the number of people in the world that have helped me identify the things that I have seen by commenting on my observations. So you can see one person, me, has interacted with 1,540 people around the world in looking at just my specimens or my observations. And then it also makes you a little life list. We can make many other things, but this is an example. So it will tell you how many things you've seen in different groups of organisms. So for me, I'm a botanist, so there's a lot of plants, but there's also a lot of insects in my case. So you can see on the right side. So these are things that are very, tools that are automatically taken care of by iNaturalist. It's a little bit like eBird, but for everything else if you have used eBird. And it also, you run projects, and these projects is like iNaturalist, and these projects are where we're all joining our observations, upload those observations to this particular project. So this is the project for my class in the fall, and this is the top species that were observed in that class. And I also run the flora and fauna of Rutgers University. I think it should be said fauna and flora. I can't remember. I think the words are mixed up here. These are the places in New Jersey where we have Rutgers University properties, field stations, the various campuses, all of these. Anything that is seen on any of these places automatically goes into this project. It's being collected here. And you can see which places that have the most observations and the most species. And we're actually over 50,000. We just went over 50,000 observations last week on Rutgers campuses and Rutgers properties. And this then leads to information that goes out to the public and making people more aware of that there is biodiversity all around us. These little cool things were found at Rutgers Gardens, just sitting on a leaf, and I photographed them. And I had no idea what they were. And then it turns out that they're some kind of plant hoppers, right? Beautiful little things. when you use iNaturalist, there's an app to it, but there's also a second app that called Seek, which is a companion app that helps you identify things. You just have it on your phone, you hold it up and you point it at whatever you're looking at, and it will suggest what it thinks it is. It uses just image recognition software for that. So you can hold it towards a dandelion and it says dandelion pops up. And if you like it, you can add it with a button to your iNaturalist record. But you can also use this for children. So children under 13 are not really, it's not really safe for them on iNaturalist because there's the privacy rules and things like that. So for children, that I would highly recommend this app instead. So you can use this as a freestanding app without linking it to iNaturalist for children. And for grown-ups, it's perfectly fine to use it as a tool to identify things that lives and grows and flies around you. So what about social media? Well, social media is also a good tool for identification. So in the past, we had floras and bird books, and we still have those things. But sometimes when you're out traveling, you don't have those things with you, or there is a group that you have no kind of literature or idea about, so you just want a quick answer and hope that somebody can tell you. There are lots and lots of identification groups where you can post photos on Facebook, Discord, Reddit, Twitter sometimes. And this kind of crowdsourcing is a whole new revolution in biodiversity data gathering and learning. So we're back to learning again, which is important because you learn the best when it's relevant to you, when you saw something, you want to find out about it. Remember, though, that when you are doing social media, that you don't know if the person answering is a dog, but you don't know the qualifications of that person, right? So you have to take some things with a little bit of a grain of salt. If it's in a Facebook group and everybody says, oh, it's this, you have to go in and check if that makes sense, if it's a realistic, good answer that makes sense. Don't believe the first thing that somebody tells you. And I want to talk a little bit about this because there's been research that shows that if you want to learn things for your own sake, for curiosity's sake, the best way of learning is actually that you learn and then teach other people about it, or that you practice. You are trying to find something out yourself and discuss with others. So the things in yellow here is when you learn the most. And this is educational studies that have shown this. The way to learn the least is when you're sitting passively and just listen to somebody talk about something. And this is when faculty give seminar. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm like just talking to you, showing these pictures, and there is only a one-way direction. There is not a give and take yet. We're going to do questions afterwards. But just be aware of this, that the traditional methods of lectures is not the method that actually gives people the best learning experience. And also, to learn something, to make it really stick, it needs to be personally relevant. This personal relevance can be something that is memorable. It's, you know, it could be exciting, it could be fearful, it could be something that is useful to you, something that is fascinating. All those things are relevance, but it has to be some relevance so that it's not something that is just boring or just like hanging out in the background. And this, if it's relevant and if learning is like that, it leads to lifelong learning and curiosity in your life and gives you a richer life. So this memorable deep learning is something that we're aiming for, and Personal BioBlitz is part of that we are all learning about everything all the time. And the reality-based learning is, of course, that there are real things around you. These are not things that are in a book. These are not things that are on TV or, you know, on YouTube. These are real things that will be where you are. And Peter Anderson said this, like, this is the thing, which could be the species or whatever it is. It confronts you. It's right there. It's right in front of your face. So it's not something that is far away in a different place, in a rainforest or wherever. And I think it's also important to think about that we are all experts on something. Every single human being is an expert on something. And sometimes experts don't They're fine being experts in their own field, but they don't dare to be beginners in something else. So we should all dare to be beginners on something else. I'm a botanist. I know a lot of plants. When I started looking at moths, I had no idea about any moths at all. So moths are little night-flowering butterflies. And just the idea that there is so much out there to discover, and allow yourself to be a beginner on something new. It's very exciting. It's not embarrassing, it's exciting. And I'm telling my fellow faculty members, my fellow professors, that they should go out and start being beginners on fields that are beyond their normal everyday, experts fields. Okay, so now go outside, get confronted with the species around you. This is your chance to be part of this project and really learn about lots of things that you had never seen before. You didn't know they existed. They're around you all the time. Look a little closer on those different kinds of bumblebees that are coming to the daffodils, or anything. The birds, look at birds for the first time in your life. Or if you're an expert, try to dig deeper, into the various lichens or the various aspects of whatever it is, insects, whatever you're interested in. You can share this with everyone. You share it on iNaturalist, but you can also share it to broader community, your friends, your family. And it's really limitless. And that's the thing with biodiversity. There are so many million species on Earth still. We are not going to run out of things to discover, to understand. And it's not just the species name. When you have the name, then you can start looking at how they behave, what are they doing. Like, it's a gray squirrel, okay? It's not a tree squirrel or flying squirrel. There's no tree squirrels. Flying squirrels versus gray squirrels. You can look at the behavior of them, figuring out what they're doing at the bird feeder. And every observation that you make to iNaturalist goes straight into this global scientific database on iNaturalist that then are being used by other people. So here's one example of that. So this is from Rutgers Gardens, from a little pond at Rutgers Gardens. I take samples from there, put it under a microscope, and saw this thing that looks kind of like a pearl necklace. This was in March during the BioBlitz last year. I put it up on iNaturalist. I had no idea what it was. I thought it was maybe a green algae. This is another picture of it, these pearl necklaces. So I said green algae, but then Roman Romanov, a Russian algae expert on iNaturalist, jumped in and says, no, this is the Neonema genus. It's Neonema, sounds like something out of some, what do you call it? The Matrix or something, right? But no, this is a new algae. Yellow-green algae, completely different group. I had never seen a yellow-green algae before in my life that I can remember. And this is, in the pond, very common in that little pond at Rutgers Gardens. Then it turns out that this is the first iNaturalist observation in the whole world of this genus of yellow-green algae. A photo has never before been uploaded by this algae at all in the whole world. This is the first one. This is not a common algae. It's uncommon. It is maybe like 8-10 times it has been reported on the Global Biodiversity Information Facilities website. So this is a very uncommon thing, and it happens to be on campus in this little pond, right? So these are the kinds of things that you can discover just by looking, putting it under the microscope and take a photo of things. So you never know what you're going to find. And now I'm going to wrap up, and I'm going to say the BioBlitz is not run just by me, but it's run by lots of graduate students and other volunteers that are helping out to identify and manage this project online. We are not funded by anybody in particular. We are not getting any grant money for this, but it's hosted by the Chrysler Herbarium at Rutgers University. And iNaturalist itself is supported by California Academy of Sciences and the National Geographic Society. And we want to thank everybody that has been part of this and that are planning to be part of this. And the website, the web page is going to be posted in the chat in a second. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lena. Sounds like an exciting program. Looking forward to it. We do have some questions, and I would remind people, if you have any questions, please feel free to enter them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. One question, how has BioBlitz and iNaturalist helped scientists collect data on species biodiversity?
In many different ways. So I can give you some examples, and that is new species have been discovered as part of the BioBlitz. So people have posted a photo and other experts have looked at it and they say, okay, this is a new species. And then they go to that place where it was found and they describe that new species. So that has happened several times around the world. The other thing that has happened is that there has been suddenly very rare species that have shown up in new places. There was a big fish that showed up in California, posted on iNaturalist, and it turned out that that fish had not been seen for a long time. And there was a rare species of plants in Pennsylvania. Somebody was rappelling down a cliff. They saw this plant. They took a photo of it, posted it, and it turns out that this is a rare plant that people thought had been extinct from that part of Pennsylvania for a long time. So those are three different examples showing you that there is a real connection between the scientists and iNaturalist volunteers or participants.
What is the proper etiquette for iNaturalist? Can or should you thank people who make suggestions or offer IDs?
Yes, the proper etiquette is that you shouldn't guess. You should have some reason to suggest, for example, that this is say a gray squirrel. So you might be very familiar with gray squirrels and you say that's a gray squirrel because somebody that is posting it have no idea what those things are yet, or if it's that squirrel and something else. But if you're not familiar with the species, then you be more careful and you can say, I think, or you can explain that, you know, in a comment, instead of making an identification, you can put in a comment and says, I think this looks like this and this, but I'm not really sure. And this happens all the time. So you can both make an identification and you can make a comment on somebody else's post.
Okay. Are there differences in the demographics of people who do or don't see things in nature? Do older or younger people do better at seeing things?
That's a difficult question because that is so dependent on how you categorize people, right? So they have shown that older people in England and probably in the US too know more tree species than younger people because it's no longer taught in schools, the most common tree species. And also most likely that rural people know more about the living things around them than urban people because they have been exposed and there's more words for the things that they see around them that they have heard since they were small and young. But it is not really something that has been studied in detail. So that's an interesting concept. But I think in general, we all are knowing less and less. We have been knowing less and less, but with tools like iNaturalist and other kinds of eBird and other kinds of digital tools that creates these online communities, we can turn that trend around. And we are turning that trend around. More and more people, you know, are learning about what's in their backyards.
For the BioBlitz, is it okay to post animals and plants that are common, like for instance, a maple tree?
Absolutely, yes. All the time. Yes, we have some participants, they are posting everything they see every day. So they actually post the same birch tree every day or but I think that, yes, post dandelions, post, the squirrels, post everything. And one reason is because actually what is common is important. We often think about rare things and that are far away are important, but the common things are the matrix and the ones that are really creating a lot of the biodiversity around us. And often we are under the impression that only the rare and far away things are important, but actually here in New Jersey and in urban environments, the common species are the ones that are creating nature, are creating the living ecosystems. So yes, post as many common species as you want.
Nice. What is it like to discover a new species like you did?
What is it like? You feel excited because you're like, nobody else has actually seen this, or if they have seen it, they haven't known what it is. And I know that this is something different that doesn't have a name yet. I can tell a quick story. So when I worked at the New York Botanical Garden a long time ago, somebody said, well, have you seen our old collections in the cold room, the ones that haven't been processed yet? And I was like, no. And so they took me into the cold room and they said, well, here's a bunch of specimens from this family that I was working on, the gentian family. And this, they were taking it down, this bundle of things. I looked at it, I opened it up, and there was something that had been collected during an expedition in the 1980s in the Amazon. And since I had been working with this group of plants from the Amazon, I looked at it and said, this is something completely new. This have never been described before. This is not. So I knew immediately that this was something new. And I described it later as a new species, and now it's been found in other places too. And that was exciting, you know, like this is it. This was immediate. But many times finding out what's a new species and not takes very tedious scientific work. It is something where you compare a lot of specimens that have been collected, trying to understand if their ecology is different. It takes a lot of work, so it's not always instant. And so how it feels depends, but you also feel like it's a privilege in a sense that you are so into something that you can then know that this is new and you can put a name on it. And when we put names on things, new species, there are some rules for how you can put names on things. So you can name things after more or less anything that is relevant to that species. Could be an honorary name of somebody. It could be after where it's from or who collected it or other things, you know, how it looks like. But you can't name it after yourself. So that is not considered good. You're not allowed to.
That's too bad. When you discovered the species, do you know if there was any further research done on the species? Any follow-up research?
Yeah, yes. In fact, I discovered another species that we're now working on a second updated paper on, because it was discovered from a tiny little area. Now it turns out it's much more widespread in the Amazon. It comes from little pockets of white sand in the lowland Amazon. So it's more widespread. And now we have photos of it. When I described it, it was only known from herbarium materials that have been collected and pressed brown plants in museums. And now we have live material and photos, beautiful photos of these orange flower plants in, color photos. So we are expanding our knowledge. And the person that is working on it emailed me and says, hey, I'm working on this. I want to write another paper with more information about this species that we thought was rare, and maybe now it's more widespread.
I live in a city. Will this hurt my BioBlitz contributions?
No, yes and no. So there is less biodiversity in cities than if in a natural environment. On the other hand, there is an enormous biodiversity in cities. So there is something called the New York City Ecoflora that has been running for many years, and they are finding lots and lots and lots of species in the cities, both insects, seashells that are on the shores of the city, weeds, urban weeds from all over the world, and native plants as well, and trees in parks and so on. So birds they fly through. So there are more diversity than you expect. And you can also seek out the little pockets of biodiversity. So if you live in a city, you go to the parks, you go to river edges, you go to the small environments. Even mosses, there are lots of mosses that live in cities that you might not think about, but there are, certain lichens that can survive in city habitats. They're small, but they're there.
It's good to know. How many different species on average would a person find in their own yard or in their home? I don't know if there's a figure for that.
I don't know. I'm sure somebody has looked at that. There is a project that is, I think it's called Never Home Alone, that is run by Rob Dunn. And he's a professor, and he has looked at how many species you find in an average house So not apartment building, but an individual house, one family house. And I think it is something like 100 species or maybe 150 species, many more than you might think. And this is indoors. So then if you go on outside, you have many more. So I think you can get up to, if you have a little backyard, you can certainly, over a year, get up to 500, maybe more, probably much more than that, but it depends a little bit how
And
your
when can
backyard
peop-
looks like. So
Sure.
yes.
When can people register for the BioBlitz?
Oh, so you actually don't have to register. So you just join the project on iNaturalist and become a member of the project on iNaturalist. And it starts on March 1st. So if you can go in and join the project right now, but we don't report anything before March 1st. If you want to be part of the special alumni thing, you have to wait for Brian's email, and then you have to register for the competition.
Okay. Can I comment on someone else's images posted to BioBlitz? What if I see someone else misidentifying an organism?
Yes. So if you see somebody that has misidentified something, you can correct it by putting in a new identification. You can put in a comment under that image. And this is all encouraged, that everybody comments on each other's and help identify things correctly. And you're going to see that there are people that are posting things, then they know very well what they see, but you're also a lot of people that might be doing this for school projects that have never really looked at trees or anything before, and they just put in plant, or they put in life, or they put in something, and it will be helpful if they even know that, okay, this is not life, this is a plant, or this bird is a hawk, but I don't know what kind of hawk it is, but at least it's a hawk. So you can help everybody by doing this. In fact, there's a little tool called Identify where you can just click on that in iNaturalist, and you will see whatever is being reported all over the world. You can filter it just to New Jersey or to North America if you want. And you see what is coming in all the time. And you can help things and say, okay, that's a snake. Then that's helpful, instead of saying just living thing, right? Or that's a turtle, or this here is a cardinal. Because there are so many people that are using iNaturalist that are unfamiliar with even what some of us would think is really basic knowledge, but it's not basic knowledge for everybody. So we are helping them out. So please, yes, identify and comment.
Do people mostly post plants or animal or insect images?
They post everything, absolutely everything. And I actually haven't seen breakdown on what is most commonly posted. I don't know. I think it's a very mixed things. The birds are flying away very fast, so there's less birds than you expect because you don't take photos of it, but you can post things without photos on there. So you don't have to have a photo. You can post things that have a sound. So if you hear a sound, you can record the sound and put up a sound file without a photo. But for things like plants and other insects, if you want help with identifying things, you're going to need to have a photo. And good photos is necessary for people, of course, to tell you what they think it is.
Has Rutgers ever run a hands-on BioBlitz on campus for alumni?
For alumni, I'm not sure. The hands-on BioBlitzes are run at Newark campus with NJIT. And that's Klaus Holzapfel that is running those. And I don't know if alumni are included in those or not.
Let's see. Are non-Rutgers people invited to participate in BioBlitz?
Yes, yes. We had a rule, or we still have a rule, and that is that we don't want anybody in the whole world because then it becomes too big and unwieldy. But if you know somebody that is at Rutgers in any way, friend or colleague or family member, or if you know somebody that has participated in the past in the BioBlitz, you are most welcome to join us. So if you have friends, we have people from Australia, Russia, New Zealand, various places, Africa, wherever you are, South America, please go in and join, as long as you have some little tiny connection to Rutgers. Yes. So invite your family and your friends.
Great. I think that's all
Colleagues.
the questions.
Yeah.
Good to know. Thanks, Dr. Struwe. I think that's all the questions we have. I know Dr. Nucci has some renovations going on, so I'm going to do the sign off for us. I want to thank you all for coming. Dr. Struwe, do you have any final comments or anything?
No, but I mean, well, I guess I want to say that everybody is welcome. You can be doing this as a family group with your kids. If you have young kids, you can have a family team. You can challenge your teenagers at home, or you can do it just as a fun thing with friends and go out and just report things you see together or alone. It's perfectly fine, but everybody is welcome.
Thank you. And as I mentioned, we're going to have an alumni competition based on number of observations made and number of species identified. It's an alumni competition. And like I said, I'll have more information about that. And we'll send out an email following this presentation with some more information for you. Otherwise, thank you for attending and have a great weekend.
Same. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.